Hey, dethroners, welcome back. I'm Joanna Kleinman, psychotherapist and CEO of the Mastering Your Mind Coaching and Consulting Company. So, today we are going to talk about what it really means to design your life. Now, that is the D step of the mind method, but here is the truth that most people miss when it comes to designing your life. Designing your life isn't something that you do. It's not to-do lists and it's not even creating a vision, okay? Designing your life is something you become because your life is shaped from the inside out. So, what I mean by that is your mind, your nervous system, your identity, your repeated ways of responding to discomfort in your life, whether that's uncertainty or sadness or anger or fear. That's what's designing your life every single day. So, when I talk about designing your life, I'm talking about the embodiment of your vision and the embodiment of your intention. I'm not talking about a strategy. I'm not talking about a 5-year plan. I'm not talking about a mood board on Pinterest. I'm talking about embodiment. Because when most people think about designing their life, they think about steps or strategies or the right actions to take, right? Like there are these right actions to take. And that is when everything goes sideways. Because anyone who has created a life that is truly extraordinary will tell you the same thing. It didn't begin with this perfect plan. It began with a vision and an intention that was so alive inside of them that it kept pulling them forward. And that is certainly true in my case. So think about Michael Phelps, okay? Before he was the most decorated Olympian in history, he was just a kid being coached to visualize winning every race before he swam it. Okay. So he wasn't just training his body, he was training his brain and his nervous system to already know the experience of being a champion, right? So the vision created his actions. And Jim Carrey tells this great story about driving to the Hollywood Hills when he had absolutely no money and writing himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, right? And he carried it in his wallet for years and years. And he didn't know the how, but he embodied the intention. And the intention organized reality around it. Okay. Oprah, she was told repeatedly that she was, her dreams were absurd. She was this young black girl from rural Mississippi, right? So her vision was never reasonable. It was felt, it lived in her body. And so when the obstacles came, and there were many, her intention held her. So when you are designing your life, there will be obstacles. Things will break, things will fall apart, the unexpected will show up. And that's the part of the journey where most people hand their life back over to their inner critic and they say, well, I guess this is not meant to be. I guess I am just not cut out for this. And that is the heartbreaking moment where their destiny is abandoned. And it's not because they weren't capable, it's because they were listening to the wrong voice. So when your vision is clear and your intention is rooted in something meaningful, that's how you don't collapse when things don't go as planned. And by the way, your vision today is going to be different from your vision next year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. So part of that journey is about shifting and recentering. And you keep going because that vision is pulling you forward more powerfully than the fear is pulling you back. So, my intention has always been the same. Since I was 13 years old, I wanted people to stop being ruled by their automatic mind. Now, of course, I didn't call it an automatic mind back then. I didn't have that language. I didn't know about neural pathways and conditioning and childhood imprints and survival based identity patterns. I knew nothing about that. All I knew was that I could feel how many people were suffering quietly inside themselves. I knew that people were trapped in mental stories and beliefs that they thought were true. And I could feel the pain of people living as prisoners of their thoughts and emotions and believing that that was who they were. So I didn't know that what they were experiencing was just the mind doing what the mind learned to do. I didn't know that beliefs were programmed or that emotional patterns were inherited and conditioned. And I didn't know that people's habits were neurological loops. I know all of that now. Okay. All I knew is that I felt their suffering in my bones, and I knew that there has to be another way to live. Now, did I know where that feeling would lead me eventually? Absolutely not. The truth is, I thought I would be a psychotherapist in private practice for forever. That was the plan. That felt safe. That felt respectable. That felt realistic. That felt known. But vision does not ask for realism, okay? Vision asks for willingness. Vision asks for courage in the face of fear. So here's the thing. When your intention is genuine and your vision is really aligned with your soul, life meets you. Paths open that you didn't even know were going to be laid out in front of you. People appear that you didn't even know existed, and you get pulled into conversations and invitations that you never could have strategized, right? So, all of what I have now, my book, my podcast, my programs, my certification program, an international community. There was no business blueprint. There was no 10-year plan. There was no brand scaling strategy. In fact, I hired a coach several years ago who created this seemingly beautiful brand scaling strategy, and it almost tanked my business. So there is just a deeper knowing. And I am here to help people wake up from the mind that keeps hurting them or keeps them stuck. And life unfolded, right? From just that knowing, from just knowing that that's what I'm here to do. So every new chapter of this whole long journey arrived after I became ready for it. So that's really what designing your life is about. It's not controlling the path. It's about becoming the person who can walk the path, because the next version of your life can't come until the next version of you comes. And that's why intention and vision matter so much, because they don't just shape your direction, they shape your identity. So your vision calls you forward into who you came here to be. And listen, sometimes that path looks like going off the path, right? Like I did with that coach. Sometimes your vision is so big and you get pulled into believing you need other things and other people to create your vision when actually you've got everything that you need. Okay. Because here's the truth, when you hold a vision in your heart, your life begins to respond. Okay. So even if you get sucked into the wrong decisions and the wrong people, eventually, if you keep going, the right people will appear. The doors will open. You will get clarity about what is your next step. Okay. Now, here's the second point about designing your life. And this is really important. Your inner critic is always going to be there convincing you to stay small. Okay. Now, I don't mean small, right? Even if you're building a vision that's way beyond you, your inner critic always wants to choose probability over possibility. Okay. So, the part of you that is your true authentic self, that part of you already knows the way. So, the question is not, is this realistic? The question is, what's possible? Is this realistic? Is an inner critic question. What's possible? That's an authentic self question. So your vision is what guides the logistics, not the other way around. The how reveals itself in response to who you're becoming. And I want to say this directly because it is the single biggest place I see people sabotage themselves. If you are obsessing over figuring out the exact process, that is your inner critic running your life because you can't know the process before you're in it, because you're co-creating the path and the process as you go. I often tell people sometimes it feels like building an airplane while flying an airplane. Okay? It's kind of like parenting, all right? No matter how many books you read, every stage requires learning on the spot. And just when you think you've figured out how to parent a toddler, one day you're waking up and now you have a teenager, okay? And the identity you once had no longer applies and you have to evolve. So designing your life works exactly the same way. You're literally becoming the next version of you with every aligned step that you take. And even if you take a step that isn't aligned, even that is part of the journey to become the next version of you. So your growth happens inside of the willingness to keep going, even when you can't see the next step, and even when the plan falls apart, and even when you feel lost or stuck or frustrated or scared, which I feel over and over and over again with every part of this journey. Right? And your mind says, this shouldn't be so hard. Okay. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite sayings. I say this to everyone. I say this to myself. I didn't make it up. Okay. The saying is the pain pushes you until the vision pulls you. So it feels hard because at first, pain is your motivator. And that pain comes in dissatisfaction. It comes in restlessness. It comes in frustration. It comes in that question, is this all there is? Right? It comes in that like knowing inside, I'm no longer willing to keep living like this. So then that is when something extraordinary happens. That is when your vision starts to take the lead. So your vision becomes the thing that pulls you through those hard moments when your evidence hasn't caught up yet. So you have to learn to trust the vision more than the fear that's going to show up when your evidence hasn't caught up yet. You've got to trust the process more than the outcome. You've got to trust the becoming more than the timeline. So your inner critic has a very specific timeline, and your inner critic wants very specific outcomes. So part of the trusting is declaring, right? You cannot whisper your destiny. You have to speak it. You have to say it out loud. You have to say it to people that you trust. You have to say it to yourself in the mirror. You have to say it while your voice is shaking and you are in the complete unknown. Because when you declare your vision, that is how you are literally encoding that vision into your identity. And you're signaling to your nervous system that this is real. This is happening. I don't know how, I don't know who, I don't know what, I don't know when, but this is real and this is happening, right? So that is when you start speaking it to yourself and out in the world. What you're doing is you're activating a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. Now, that's a part of your brain that starts noticing things and people and opportunities and circumstances that match your vision. So the way that I often explain it is, when you go and purchase a new car, and you go and you pick out the color and the make and the model of the car, and you drive that car off the lot, and now all you're seeing on the road is your car. That's your reticular activating system. Okay. So much in the same way, when your reticular activating system is focused on your vision, right, you start noticing opportunities that you used to overlook, that actually used to be invisible to you. Okay. So that's where we call that synchronicity, right? That's what we call alignment, right? And we're like, oh my God, I can't believe I was thinking about that the other day. And the following week, somebody shows up that gets me to exactly where I need to be. That is your reticular activating system, right? So if you are too afraid to speak your vision, that's silence. And silence is where dreams go to die. So declaration is where your dreams come alive. Now, here's the part that most people never learn. And this is also important. Your current self is not the one who will achieve the vision. Think about that right now. Who you are right now, your identity right now is not the one who will achieve the vision. Okay? It is only the future you who will achieve the vision. So 5 year ago me never could have created where I am now. And who I am now could never create where I'm going to be 5 years from now, because you have to be willing to continue to grow into that next version. And then you have to practice being that version. You have to make decisions as that version. You have to show up for yourself like that future version of you would show up now. And practicing that is what builds mastery. And actually, failing at that is what builds mastery. And your resilience when you fail at that is what builds mastery. Now, here's more of the neuroscience behind that. Confidence comes from evidence out there in the world. And the only way you get evidence is by taking action, which means confidence is not the prerequisite. Confidence is the result. And most people wait to feel confident before they act. Now, that is your inner critic's trap. So your authentic self acts even while you're afraid. And that's how you build confidence. Confidence follows taking action even though you're afraid. So if you're waiting to feel ready and waiting to feel certain and waiting to feel good enough, you're going to be waiting for the rest of your life. So designing your life starts the moment that you stop waiting and you start becoming. Now, you might not even know who you're becoming. That's okay. What you do know is that there is one step that you could take right now, even if it is the tiniest, most miniature step, right? You know exactly what the next step is right now. So, the third point about designing your life is that designing your life cannot be about chasing happiness. Because I'm going to tell you something. I know you think that once you get the thing that's in your vision, that's going to be the thing that's going to make you happy. And it's not. Happiness is not a finish line. It's not something you achieve. It's not something you get after the vision works out. Okay. Happiness takes place right now. And this is the formula for happiness. It is finding contentment in the present moment while you're creating. So, happiness is being in your life. It's feeling grounded in who you are today. It's being right here in this moment. And from this moment, allowing your life to be a creative expression of your authentic self. So, when you are designing your life from your authentic self, what you know is hustling and trying to create good optics and trying to have your vision make you feel whole and enough and worthy is not the way to build what you're building. That is not the way to design your life. So, your happiness can only be when your inner world matches your outer world. So many people are building their vision, right? But they're building their vision from their inner critic self. They're wanting the end result of the vision to make them feel the way that they want to feel instead of understanding how do I make myself feel that way right now? And then from that feeling, design my life, right? So to do that, you have to be willing to imagine immensities. Now, what does that actually mean? Imagining immensities means that you have to be willing to imagine a life that's bigger than the one that your inner critic says you're allowed to have. So it means you allow yourself to want what feels right now too big, too bold, too far away, and too unrealistic. So most people imagine their vision, imagine their life, imagine their future selves through the lens of their past. So there's a limit to what they can imagine because they imagine through the lens of what they've already done or what they've already proven or what they believe they deserve or what they think is reasonable. That's not imagination, that's repetition. So to imagine immensities really means that you allow yourself to envision a life that stretches beyond who you've ever been before, right? And so that vision of your life feels slightly impossible in the best way. And that version of your life doesn't fit inside your current identity because real vision doesn't come from what you already know. It comes from somewhere deeper. Now, that deeper place is what I call your authentic self. That's where you can tap into your intuition. That's also where your longing lives. That's where your inner wisdom lives. Now, that's the part of you that remembers who you are here to become. That's the part of you that whispers to you, there's more for you. Now, your automatic mind, that's your inner critic self, that's your current identity, that part of you is going to respond to that by saying, how is that even going to be a thing? That is not realistic. Stop fantasizing that big. Who do you think you are? Just be grateful for what you have. Now, this is the crossroads. Do you choose probability or do you choose possibility? Probability is your past, possibility is your becoming. And your nervous system is not going to allow you to move towards what you don't allow yourself to imagine. So, our brains literally cannot create what we can't picture. So, imagination is really important because imagination is a neurological and a spiritual instruction. So, imagination is how your future self broadcasts the coordinates, right? So, when I say imagine immensities, I'm saying you have to let yourself dream so fully that it scares your small self just a little bit, or maybe even a lot of it, because the stretch is where your transformation lives. So the enormity of that vision is not the problem. That's the compass. So your job is not to know. Your job is to let yourself want and to let yourself imagine because you have to give yourself permission to want that big vision. Now, wanting is not selfish, it's not greedy, it's not unrealistic. It's your authentic self calling you forward, right? And that inner critic will always be there saying, you want too much. You should be grateful for what you have. Don't ask for too much. Don't rock the boat. But your authentic self says, there is more inside of you, and that part of you that lives inside of you is meant to be lived. So don't wait for the right moment. Don't wait for the confidence. Don't wait for a sign. Start creating opportunities now because those doors are not going to open if you're just sitting there quietly hoping to be chosen. Okay. You've got to knock on those doors. You've got to show up. You've got to speak your vision out loud. You've got to declare yourself available for the life that you are here to live. Now, I have knocked on many doors that never opened. And I used to make that mean something about me, right? That was my inner critic self telling me I wasn't ready. I wasn't enough. It wasn't my place. I'm not like them. I'm never going to get to be as good as they are. But now I know the truth. And that is that not every door is your door. So some doors not opening is actually the protection. It's actually the redirection. It's actually the preparation for who you're really supposed to come. So I'm going to keep knocking on those doors. I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep speaking my vision. And I know that there are going to be other doors that are not going to open. I don't need every door to open, right? I trust that the doors meant for me cannot stay closed. And the doors that don't open were never aligned with who I am becoming. So, designing your life is not about forcing your way through every doorway. It's about trusting yourself enough to walk the ones that call you again and again and again until the right doors open effortlessly. So, when you feel stuck, when you feel unclear, here's one of the most powerful questions you can ask. What am I telling myself I can't do that I actually can do? I want you to feel how both confronting and liberating that question is, because almost every limitation you experience is actually self imposed. So your inner critic convinces you that that door is locked when the door has really been open the whole time. Now, here is another tool that most people misunderstand, and that is jealousy. Okay. If you are jealous of someone that is ahead of you, I want you to use that jealousy as your compass. Now, I'm not talking about jealousy in the judgmental, bitter comparison way. Okay. I'm talking about jealousy as information. So when you feel a pang of jealousy towards someone, I want you to stop and ask what part of myself is longing to be expressed? What is it about this person that's making me see that part of myself that just wants to be expressed? So, what desire have I buried because I didn't believe that I was allowed to have it? So, your jealousy is actually not a flaw, it's a flashlight. It points to the direction of your deeper desire. And once you recognize that deeper desire, now you have to take up space with that deeper desire because you can't design a life that you're too afraid to inhabit. Okay, so let's talk about what it means to take up space in your life. Because if you're designing your life, but you're still shrinking to stay acceptable or likable or appropriate or easy, your vision is never going to have the room it needs to breathe and grow and expand. So taking up space is not about dominating. It's not about being louder. It's certainly not about ego. It's about no longer abandoning yourself in order to fit in. So let's break that down. Okay. Let's first talk about emotional space. All right. Taking up emotional space means you allow all of your feelings. Okay. You stop trying to shove down your anger or your sadness or your fear or your shame or your rage. You've got to use those feelings as the portals for your growth. Taking up emotional space also means you stop apologizing for having needs. You stop minimizing those needs by saying, it's fine, it's not a big deal. I shouldn't feel this way. Okay. You stop shrinking your emotional truth so that other people don't get uncomfortable. Okay. So you tell people the truth. You tell people that you're hurt. You let yourself cry without being embarrassed. You celebrate yourself without feeling like you're bragging. You say no without this paragraph long justification. You just say no. No is a complete sentence. So, emotional space means in your relationship with you, you are your first priority, not above anyone else, but you are deeply in tuned with your emotional self and what you need. So now let's move into taking up physical space. So this is about how you occupy your body in the world. Okay. So this means you are conscious about showing up powerfully in your body. Okay. You're not folding your arms to shrink yourself. You're not making yourself smaller to avoid attention, right? So you are walking into a room with your shoulders back. You are taking deep breaths. You are experiencing your own presence, right? You're walking into that room owning yourself. You're speaking from your chest, right? Instead of that tightness in your throat. So your body language communicates your identity to your nervous system. So when you take up more physical space, your brain knows, oh, I'm allowed to be here. Now, let's talk about taking up relational space. Okay. Taking up relational space means You stop thinking that you have to get people to love you, to value you, that you have to do things in order to make sure that you are loved and valued and accepted. So this means you stop performing, you stop pleasing, you stop managing how others see you. Okay. So maybe you've got to stop always being the easy one, the agreeable one. Okay. Maybe you need to let people feel disappointed or uncomfortable sometimes. Okay. Maybe you need to start practicing stating what you want and not feeling guilty for it. Maybe you need to start having boundaries with people and holding them. Maybe you need to let people meet you instead of you over functioning to meet them. So relational space says, I matter in this dynamic too. I don't need to always have my attention out there on everybody else. Now let's talk about taking up spiritual space. Now, this one is big. This means allowing yourself to live from a deeper knowing, not just the logical knowing, not just your fear, not just your conditioning. Taking up spiritual space looks like trusting your intuition, even if you can't explain it, and making decisions in your life based on your own inner alignment, not approval from other people. It looks like letting your life unfold instead of trying to force outcomes because you don't like being uncomfortable in the space of the unknown. It looks like believing that your desires are guidance, that you're not delusional in having these desires. And it also means that understanding that your path has meaning even when you can't see where that path is leading you. So taking up spiritual space means that you know my life is guided. And I don't have to control everything. All I need to do is take the very next aligned step. Okay? Because the truth is, you cannot design a big life if you are trying to control everything. So, your new reality requires a new way of holding yourself. Now, taking up space is how you signal to your mind and your nervous system that you're safe to expand into who you're becoming. And that expansion, that's not a mindset, that's not a strategy, it's a behavior. It's a moment by moment by moment choice. It is the moment that you choose to stop collapsing yourself and letting your fear mind govern your life. So your life expands to the size of your willingness to occupy it. So once you've envisioned your future, here's the next thing to do. Write it down, put it away, and just live. Because the magic of who you're becoming and what you're designing does not happen in obsessing. That magic happens in becoming. So you can revisit your vision later, right? And that's not to see what you failed to do, it is to witness what has already begun unfolding without you even forcing it. So if you just heard a whisper that says, oh, that sounds really risky to just set it and forget it. Yes, of course it does. Because anything that requires you to leave your old identity behind is going to feel risky. So, what do we do when it feels risky? We breathe, we slow down, we pause the urgency. Because designing your life is a recalibration of your nervous system. It is not a race. So we design our life together, co-created with whatever that is. Whatever that is inside of us. You could say it's the universe that lives inside of you. You could say it's God that lives inside of you. But you are co-creating who you are becoming with that energy. And you find that energy in one breath, in one decision, in one becoming at a time. So, designing your life is not about control. It is about freeing the part of you that already knows. Remember, your inner critic worships probability and your authentic self lives in possibility. So we're building that neural pathway to that future, one loving, deliberate act at a time. If this episode moved you, here's how to go deeper with me. Number one, please follow me on Instagram for daily reels that keep you anchored in your authentic self. Number two, keep listening to the podcast. Keep sharing this podcast with people that you know and love. I am so grateful to all of you who continue to share my message with the people in your life. Thank you so much. You can watch me on YouTube for more teachings and practices. And if you are feeling the tug to live this work or to teach this work, I've got two opportunities. Number one, the Mastering Your Mind program is designed as a 6-month journey for you to deeply live and embody this work for whatever it is that you're designing. And number two, the Mind Method certification program is a program that allows you to take the mind method and actually use it to create what it is that you want to design in the world with others. So, two powerful containers to embody this transformation and bring it to yourself or bring it to others. So, if you're feeling that pull, I would love to talk to you because that future is already calling you so we can answer it together. So go to my website, masteringyourmind.com, and you can book your opportunity to speak to me because I'm very careful about who I bring into these programs. These programs are not for everyone. So we do need to discuss it first and make sure that you are a fit for these programs. Again, you can go to masteringyourmind.com, and I hope to speak to you soon. Thanks so much for tuning in today.